Are you looking to get that edge in the office?
Are you competing for that new job?
Do you want to become a stronger leader?
Are you motivated to be a better speaker?
Explore with us as we discover. This is Toastmasters.
Hi, I'm Kyle Keldsen, and I'll be your host of an 8-part series on Toastmasters. You may be familiar with Toastmasters. You may have had a father, grandfather, somebody involved in Toastmasters in the past. We're going to bring you up to date on Toastmasters today. And not only Toastmasters today, but Toastmasters in Nashua, New Hampshire. We're part of a club that meets the first and third Wednesday of every month at the Nashua Public Library. So for the show, we're going to try and give you a behind-the-scenes look at what happens at one of our meetings. We're going to specifically look at speeches that have been given. We're also going to look at the evaluation process, because a lot of times when people hear about evaluations at work, they get a little nervous. And in Toastmasters, it's a much more relaxed thing, and it's a much more positive experience. So today's show, we're going to talk with Sarah Noyovitz, who gives our speech, and then we're also going to talk with Scott Green, who evaluated the speech. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and take a look at what Toastmasters might have to offer you.
Please help me welcome Sarah Noyovitz.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, my name is Sarah Noyovitz, and I want to be a rabbi, which is a spiritual leader in the Jewish community. I wanted to be a rabbi since I was about 12, and last month I completed the application and interview process for rabbinical school, graduate school for people who want to be rabbis. One of the things that I've always loved about Jewish learning is that you can take a piece of text, maybe hundreds of years old, and apply it to today's world, to my life and your life. So I'd like to begin with a piece of text. And don't worry, I've translated it from its original Hebrew, so you should all be able to understand it. Rabbi Tarfon said, "The day is short, the tasks are many, the workers are lazy, the wages are high, and the master is demanding." He used to say, "It is not upon you to complete the work, but you are not free to abstain from it. If you learned much Torah, you will be given great reward. And faithful is the employer who will pay you for your work. And know that the reward for the righteous will be granted in the future." From Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 2, verses 15 and 16. This is from a book that was written for Torah scholars, students of the Jewish Bible. And many of them came from simple backgrounds. Their families worked in agriculture, farming, physical labor. Like many texts that were written for the masses, you'll find examples of ideas and objects from their daily lives. For example, if you don't have a pellet stove, you may not know that a hopper is a funnel-shaped object, but at the time that text was written, everybody knew that, and it could help you, the average person, understand this concept of taking lots of ideas and opinions and squishing them all into your brain. So what was Rabbi Tarfon saying to his brand new students who are not yet Torah scholars? What it means to be a righteous Jew. So where am I getting that from? Well, these students understand, as do we, that if you don't work, you don't get paid. If you don't get paid, you can't feed your family, and that's kind of important. But sometimes it feels like the day is short, the tasks are many, and your boss wants you to get so much done by the end of the day, and you just don't think it's possible. We've been there. But it doesn't mean you don't do anything. They know, we know, at the end of the day, you get paid for what you have accomplished, so you do what you can. Our work as righteous Jews, bless you, is for the perfection of the world. Perfection. That definitely seems never-ending and impossible, because perfection lies at an asymptote, and I can approach it my whole life and never actually get there. But I don't do nothing. I know that I won't get paid at the end of the day for my work towards this goal, but that's not the point. I'm not doing it for me. It's like planting a carob tree seed. It takes 70 years for it to bloom. And if you're 70 years old, you're never going to eat that fruit. But your children's children will. The reward for the righteous will be granted in the future. And this is what the text means to me. My peers, my colleagues, young rabbis, cantors, Jewish educators, we're planting those seeds, not for ourselves, but for future generations. There's a story about a boy walking along a beach at low tide, and there's thousands of starfish stranded. And he's picking them up one at a time and tossing them back into the ocean. And somebody sees him and says, "Why are you doing this? You're not making any difference. There's thousands of starfish. Don't waste your time." And the boy smiles and picks up a starfish, throws it into the ocean and says, "I made a difference to that one." I've lived in New Hampshire my whole life. I've worked in the Jewish community in New Hampshire and in Massachusetts and all over the place basically my whole life also. And I want it to be my life's work. I want to be a rabbi because I'll be able to reach so many more people on so many more levels, make positive difference in their lives, maybe give them a few more reasons to love being Jewish. And I'm thrilled to tell you that on March 25th at 5:00 p.m., I was offered admission at Hebrew College's Rabbinical School, and I begin this fall. Thank you.
All right, hello, I'm Kyle Keldsen, and we're here with a couple of Toastmaster members. And you just saw Sarah Noyovitz, who's seated to my right, and she gave her first opening icebreaker speech. And we also have Scott Green, who acted as her evaluator for that speech. And tonight what we're going to try and do is give you an introduction to Toastmasters and let you know a little bit about a couple of the members, as well as we're going to take an in-depth look, if you will, at Sarah's speech. And Sarah's going to share some feedback about how she felt giving that speech. And Scott's going to talk a little bit about some of the high points of the speech. In Toastmasters, we generally like to focus on making sure that we're positive and encouraging in this process, so you won't hear Scott talk and try and dismember her in any way or make her uncomfortable on camera especially. So with that, I want to introduce both of them and let them share a little bit about themselves. So why don't we start with Sarah?
Well, I'm from New Hampshire. I've lived here my whole life, and I am thrilled to be part of Toastmasters.
And what is it that got you to join? How did you find out about it?
I found out about it because my father suggested that I look into it. I thought it was literally about learning to make a toast, to be a good speech at a toast, which made sense. But I learned quickly that it was much more than that. And since I had been interested in joining the rabbinate and wanting to be in a leadership position, becoming a well-versed public speaker was important. And he encouraged me to look into it, so I did. And after 2 meetings, I was hooked. I joined. And a couple weeks later, I had my first speech.
Absolutely. Okay. Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to join Toastmasters.
I came to join Toastmasters after I had given a horrible speech at work. And I walked out of that meeting kicking myself. But I remembered back in college, my instructor had said something about Toastmasters. So back then we had encyclopedias. Now we have Google. It's easy to find things like Toastmasters. And I Googled it, found out Toastmasters here in Nashua, joined, and like Sarah, after watching a couple speeches, I was hooked. I'm like, this could benefit me in my business. And I've been a member of Toastmasters for 20 months now, and it's been remarkable for me. I would say, because of the skills I've learned at Toastmasters, I've been given so many opportunities at work. And I thank Toastmasters for that. And I thank you guys for actually listening to me speak. It's encouraging.
Absolutely. Well, you're quite welcome. Well, why don't we go ahead and jump into the speech. Before you guys share your thoughts, I just wanted to talk to everybody about the fact that it was an amazing speech you saw. This was actually the first speech that she got a chance to share with us. So from that perspective, Scott and I have seen a lot of speeches in the last 20 months or so, and it's one of the better ones we've seen. So you guys are really in for a treat as they discuss it. So Sarah, share with us a little bit about how you felt up there, now that you get a chance to see it again as well. Just share with us kind of your initial thoughts.
Well, I've been involved in theater my whole life, so getting up in front of people wasn't necessarily the cliff I was jumping off. I have been in front of an audience. I've taken piano lessons and voice lessons and had recitals and through college. So being in front of people, I don't have a fear of that. It's my body language. I'm very fidgety, and I'm aware that that is happening. It's reflexive. I know in the moment, this is not my focus right now, especially in my icebreaker speech. I know that several chapters into my book later, I will have the body language and reflexive gesture controlling. That will come later, and I'll be able to work on that then. But being up in front of people, it was exciting. I was able to share a piece of myself, and I knew that it was a warm and welcoming community that was listening.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. So Scott, you were in the evaluation role. You got a chance to give feedback and sort of think some of the thoughts that Sarah shared with us, but you also had some specific goals in that of trying to look for things, and both that were positive and then maybe some constructive feedback as well. So what did you see in Sarah's speech?
Right. So I've actually written a few things just to jog my memory. The icebreaker is generally every Toastmaster's very first speech. The goal is to introduce yourself to the group, talk about why you joined Toastmasters and what you hope to achieve. So there's not a whole lot of goals that you're trying to accomplish other than getting up there and conquering your fear of public speaking initially. And you demonstrated great poise behind the podium. You obviously have some training in speaking and addressing people. Some of the things that I took a note of is the way you prepared your speech. You talked about Rabbi Tarfon, and you gave the illustration of what he says now and what he said then. For comedic value, I might have actually flipped that around. What Rabbi Tarfon used to say, but what he says now, because we've gone into a lazy generation, and I think that's kind of what I was getting from it. I'm not sure that's what you were trying to say at the time.
I think that's an issue of translation from the original Hebrew.
Right.
He used to say is how that phrase translates. It was, if not at the same time, it was very close to being at the same time. All of it was something that he used to say to his students.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
So Rabbi Tarfon was an instructor of other rabbis?
Yes, those people who were interested in becoming scholars of the Jewish Bible.
Oh, okay, because I understand, like right after that you explained what book it came from and you gave us the chapter and verse, which I thought was great. You had fantastic body language up there. Towards the end of the speech you talked about a little boy had found a starfish, and I loved how you extended your arm as he was throwing that starfish back out to the ocean. And that was very powerful. That was a powerful statement. Your eye contact is great. And a lot of people who give their icebreaker for the first time, they have these roaming eyes, or a lot of people use notes and they'll sit there and just read them and not even look at us. You used notes, but sparingly, and I love the fact that you've overcome that hurdle already. One of the things that we try to train in Toastmasters is getting out from behind the podium. Now, I don't know, the industry you're getting into, being a rabbi, I remember being at church when I was a little kid, and that pastor was locked onto the podium for the whole thing, and I don't know if that's true in the Jewish faith, if the rabbi uses his stage or if he's just locked in there at the lectern.
It really depends on the individual and on the space. The rabbi I had in my congregation growing up sat down. There was a table and a chair, and he'd sit down and he'd have his sermon prepared and he would speak it to us. If it were the high holidays, he'd be at this taller podium, he'd be standing and addressing the congregation. Some rabbis, as I'm sure some pastors, also like to roam around, get out from the pulpit and go right up to people and speak to them, or to come down off of the pulpit raised area and come to people's eye level where they become part of the community. And I want to be able to be comfortable to choose when it's appropriate to stay behind the podium, and when it's appropriate to become one with the community, and which topics lend themselves to those different uses of the space.
Well, I think your use in this speech, staying behind the lectern and having to rely on notes at this stage, the notes were almost invisible because you were so good at just glancing at your notes momentarily and then engaging the audience with your body language and your eye contact, which I applaud you. That was very good. I don't see many icebreakers that are to that level yet.
I would agree with that as well.
Thank you.
Some of the things that you talked about in your speech, though, like the asymptote, I'm not sure what an asymptote is. What is an asymptote?
It's a mathematical term. If you have a graph and you have a curve that is extending forever in one direction, let's say it's going up, it's always going, let's say it's always extending toward the 3 on the x-axis, so it's heading up the y-axis forever. It will never actually reach the 3, that line where the 3 exists. It will get forever closer and never actually touch it. That's the asymptote.
Oh.
And that's what it feels like when you're trying to be perfect about something. You'll keep making improvements, but you'll never actually achieve what you feel is perfect.
Nice. This is what I love about Toastmasters. The speeches that you hear are just educational. The things you learn, the things you walk away with every week. It's like I read a new book, or 3 books sometimes, because there's 3 speeches. Great. I love the fact that the type of work you're getting into is noble work. And I love the fact that at the end of your speech, you alluded to the fact that you received notification that you've been accepted at this college or seminary or whatever. What do you call it?
The name is Hebrew College.
Yes. Hebrew College?
It's a rabbinical school program.
Yes.
Oh, that was great. The one thing that I would suggest, it was like, I would say, what is your noble cause? A call to action at the end of your speech. Most speeches are meant to inspire people, and yours was very inspiring to see someone who's so young with this gusto for life and just wanting to grow kids. And you referred to that tree that you have to plant for 70 years. And I think the profession you're getting into is very noble. To make it more powerful at the end, I challenge you. What is your noble cause? Because I would walk away with that like, oh, wow, I need a noble cause. I really need one.
Or even something along the lines of reminding people that if they're reaching for a goal, if they know what that goal is, they may not be able to achieve it very quickly, but it still doesn't mean it's not worth following.
Absolutely.
That's another track you could take with that.
Yeah.
Right. Overall, I thought your icebreaker speech was well prepared, well thought out, good organization, great body language, great content, very little use of your reliance on notes. And I would say congratulations on becoming a Toastmaster, and I'm glad to be in the audience listening to you, learning from you, and encouraging you to grow. And hopefully someday we'll know this famous Rabbi Noyovitz, and I'm like, I remember her.
That's right. When she goes on her book tour, probably. That'll be the thing. It'll be good. So I think that are there any last thoughts that you have, Sarah? You've gotten some feedback from Scott. Some of it may have been similar to what you heard at the meeting, but if there's anything new, is there anything that you were thinking about when he was talking that you'd like to share?
I do want to say that my first meeting, I walked in and you were speaking. You were talking, it was your speech called Jump. And you were sitting on the edge of the table talking about how you were actually sitting on the edge of an airplane, ready to dive out. And I sat down, I was just brand new, I didn't know anybody, I just said hi to Kyle, didn't know who he was yet, and I sat down and I just listened. And your speech was so powerful. Like you said, many speeches are to inspire, and I was inspired by that. And I would have guessed you were a Toastmaster for much longer than 20 months.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I thought to myself, if I can become as good as that guy up there, I'll have done something good for myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you certainly inspired me in that first meeting to come back to a second meeting.
Well, that's awesome. I think as Toastmasters, we all inspire each other, and you certainly inspired me with the speech that we heard today and a few weeks ago at the meeting. So I wish you the best of luck in
Thank you.
whatever you do, and tell your friends about Toastmasters.
I plan to. I've already told people that as soon as I get to school and I have my first meeting with my class, I'm going to say, I just joined Toastmasters in Newton or wherever it is that I'm going to join. You should come with me. Rabbis need to be good speakers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not surprising enough, Scott and I have seen this, and I've actually had been blessed to have been in a temple or two as well. And not every rabbi is a good speaker, just like not every pastor is a good speaker. So it's always exciting to see somebody who's able to communicate a message worth hearing in a great way. Mm-hmm. And so we're excited for your future as well.
Thank you. It's not just about writing a good message. You can have a great message on paper, but if you don't know how to deliver it efficiently and effectively, then it won't actually get anywhere. And one of the things that I do want to become stronger in Toastmasters, and I appreciate that you said how strong I am already on my minimal use of notes. I had a long time to prepare for that speech. And I want to become better at staying away from the notes, which can be a very nice crutch. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you take your eyes off of the people you're speaking to, you lose that connection.
Absolutely.
And I want to be able to keep that connection throughout whatever message it is that I'm trying to get across. And so that is something that I do want to work on, is being able to leave the notes in my seat. Mm-hmm. And not even glance down. However little I'm actually looking at it, the glancing down is a crutch.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The one thing I would say, just for the folks who are watching as well, is that notes can be useful like Scott used them tonight. The balance is between if it's distracting from your message or not. And if it's not, in a lot of cases, sometimes it's good to have that crutch. So, for somebody who's starting out, I think it's still a good practice to think about. And you may feel more comfortable, like if it's a desire to eliminate notes from what you're doing, then in that case, definitely work on that. And one of the other things that's interesting that I've seen is that a lot of times when people are giving the same speech multiple times, like Scott's been able to do, and like you'll probably get a chance to do, that's a great opportunity to really refine what you're doing and change it in some meaningful ways. So, I
in fact did that speech for my interview at the school that I was accepted to.
Oh, perfect.
That was what I wrote it for.
Okay.
And I decided it was a good part of my personal journey that I wanted to share is my icebreaker. So you're right that it had a lot of refining moments.
No, it was great, absolutely great. So I just want to close this segment, and we're going to go ahead and watch a Toastmasters video that talks about how a club meeting is run. So we'll get a chance to see that as we close the meeting. But Todah, which I believe in Hebrew means thank you, so I want to say thank you. And Scott, thank you as well for making time for the show today.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, well, that wraps up the segment that we talked about with Scott and Sarah. And now we're going to watch a video from corporate to share with you a little bit about what an actual meeting looks like. So if you've never been to a Toastmasters meeting, sit back, enjoy this video, and we'll be back to wrap up the show after that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rafaela. Thanks for visiting Toastmasters International, where more than 4 million people have gained the confidence to communicate and lead in any circumstance. They've done this by becoming a member of a Toastmasters club. Toastmasters has a network of more than 13,000 clubs around the world to choose from. And although the format isn't exactly the same in all of these clubs, one thing is consistent. Members give speeches, take on meeting roles, and have a great time learning. If you're interested in seeing what a typical club meeting is like, please join me at my club, the Bright and Early Toastmasters. Your timing is perfect. The meeting is just about to begin. During a club meeting, a few members volunteer to take on meeting roles, such as Toastmaster of the Day, Timer, Grammarian, or Evaluator. Some members give speeches. Club meetings are free to visit, and when you do, you'll have a chance to find out about the communication and leadership skills members develop every time they participate.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Bright and Early Toastmasters Club. I call this meeting to order.
Nicholas is our club president. He starts every meeting by welcoming us and introducing the Toastmaster of the day.
And for the order of business, I'd like to introduce Jay, our Toastmaster.
The Toastmaster of the day is the chair of the meeting. Jay's job as today's Toastmaster is to introduce speakers and keep the meeting rolling along. It's great practice for leading meetings. Jay starts the meeting by introducing the people who will fill the meeting roles. The purpose of the meeting roles is to help members improve their skills in both communication and leadership by providing feedback and evaluation.
And now I'd like to introduce our awe counter, Deborah.
Many clubs use an awe counter at meetings. This person helps Toastmasters keep track of filler words they use while speaking. At the end of each meeting, the awe counter reports how many ahs, ums, and other filler words each speaker used. This helps members become more aware of unintended words or sounds they make when they speak.
And now I'd like to introduce our grammarian, Danielle.
Hi everybody.
The grammarian's job is to listen to the way members speak and provide feedback that helps them build their language skills.
I also introduce a word for practice, and today's word is industrious, okay, which means to work energetically and devotedly. So somebody who's very hardworking is industrious. If you can, use this in your speeches today.
With the grammarian's help, every member can stretch his or her vocabulary. And if a member says something with flair, the grammarian calls attention to it. Not all clubs have an awe counter. Sometimes the grammarian does that job too.
And now I'd like to introduce Seth, our timer.
Today, Seth is our timer. The timer helps to keep the meeting on schedule and times each speech. The timer uses two important tools, a stopwatch and timing lights. With the stopwatch, he'll measure how long someone speaks down to the second. And using the green, amber, and red timing lights, he alerts speakers to how long they've spoken and how much time they have left, because an important part of speaking and leading is using your time well. Next, Jay introduces Cheyenne, the general evaluator for this meeting.
Hello everyone, I'm Cheyenne. As the general evaluator, today I'm going to report on the overall flow of your meeting, and then I'll provide feedback on how we can improve our club meetings overall.
In her role as general evaluator, Cheyenne takes notes throughout the meeting and reports back to everyone, giving specific feedback on how well the meeting flowed and also on how future meetings might be improved. For example, did each member who had a role prepare ahead of time? Did they perform their duties correctly? Cheyenne will be sure to point out what worked and what didn't. In every club meeting, there are at least two members who will present a speech. These speakers don't just stand up and start talking. They use the guidelines in the Competent Communication, or CC Manual, or the Advanced Communication Series, ACS Manuals, to fully prepare their presentations and achieve the objectives for each speech. The CC Manual speeches usually last 5 to 7 minutes. ACS Manual project speeches are 5 to 7 minutes or longer, depending upon the assignment. Every speaker who has prepared a speech in advance enjoys one of Toastmasters' greatest benefits, evaluation. Think of it as having a friend watch you practice a speech and then give you helpful feedback. The speaker usually meets with the evaluator before the meeting and asks to be watched for some aspects of the talk.
Hi everyone, Leslie is working on project number 4 on how to say it.
Today, Leslie will give a prepared speech and David is set to evaluate it. First, he announces her goals and what she asked him to consider while he watches her give her speech.
Let's welcome Leslie up to share her secrets of Texas Hold'em.
Now Leslie gives her speech. She has chosen to present project number 4 in the Competent Communication Manual, How to Say It.
Hi everyone! So I have a few secrets about Texas Hold'em. I play a lot and I've learned that mostly it's gentlemen at the table. So female coming in like myself, they don't think I know how to play.
Her objective is to select the right words and build the best sentences to communicate clearly, accurately, and vividly. After Leslie's speech, club members take a moment to jot their feedback on an evaluation form that they will give directly to Leslie. She'll use that feedback along with David's evaluation to improve her speeches in the future. Areas of study and practice include organizing your thoughts, getting to the point, delegating, mentoring, controlling your voice, working with visual aids, getting comfortable with gestures, and more. Nicholas is giving a prepared speech too. He is working toward an advanced communication goal.
The title of the speech is How My Dog Found Me. Nicholas.
Thank you, Jay. Talk about a subject that really tugs at my heart. Because not only is this a story about how my dog found me, but it's how I found my wife.
In addition to prepared speeches, we always set aside a few minutes for table topics. This is often the most challenging and the most fun part of our meetings.
And now I'd like to introduce Joyce, our topics master.
Situations come up in everyone's life where they have to think fast and say just the right thing. It might be a job interview, a sales meeting, or a dinner conversation. We use table topics to practice and hone the skill of impromptu speaking. The Table Topics Master prepares questions before the meeting, and participants are given 1 to 2 minutes to deliver their response. Joyce is our Table Topics Master today. She always has great questions.
Hey Lou, would you like to come up and tell us about a time you were really scared?
Sure.
Great.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, I've never been scared a day in my life.
Now it's time for David to offer his evaluation of Leslie's speech. Based on his conversation with Leslie before the meeting, he focuses on the areas she was working on. Did she use her hands to gesture well? Did she control her voice throughout the speech? What did she do especially well, and what are some ideas for improvement?
So then, Leslie, you did a great job today with the speech. You had very strong eye contact.
After everyone has given their prepared and impromptu speeches, the members vote on who they think did the best job that day. In Toastmasters, members learn how to evaluate meetings and improve their team effort. To do this, the meeting functionary roles and the general evaluator provide feedback to the club so members can learn what worked and what needed improvement. Toastmasters always want to improve what they do, and this includes their meetings. We pass our ballots forward to the ballot counter. Seth lets everyone know if they stayed within their targeted times for their planned and impromptu speeches. This helps members learn how to manage time while speaking.
In table topics, everyone stayed within their time limit. And for our speakers, Leslie, you took 4 minutes and 35 seconds, and Nick, you took 5 minutes and 42 seconds. Great job, everyone.
At this point, the ah counter, Deborah, reports on the number of ahs and ums that were said when people gave speeches today. Keeping track this way really helps speakers learn how to control their use of filler words, use pauses, and focus on their message.
I'd say all in all, we've done a very good job today in not using our filler words. I do want to just make a little note for Lou's story. He used and so it just sort of connected all your sentences and it was one giant run-on sentence. But everything else was great. Y'all were really good.
As grammarian, Danielle reports on how well everyone did with their word choices. She tells us which speakers remembered to use the word of the day, if one of the table topics participants used a nice turn of phrase to describe something, and if anyone used a word or sentence incorrectly.
I am pleased to report that everyone who used our word of the day used it correctly. And Nicholas was industrious in his phrasing, using words like precocious and industrious to describe his dog. And Leslie educated us as well as entertained us, telling us about her industrious career as a poker player. Great job, everybody.
And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Pantelis, our Sergeant-at-Arms, presents ribbons for Best Speaker, Evaluator, and Table Topics Participant.
Hi everyone, ballots are in and counting. So the best evaluator for today is David. And the ribbon for best table topics goes to Lou. And last but not least, the ribbon for Best Speaker goes to Leslie.
Whether you win an award or not, you gain something from each meeting. Everyone joins Toastmasters with a personal goal. Maybe it's a goal to become a more confident presenter, or learn how to run a meeting, or think on your feet. Whatever it is, you can achieve your goal if you participate. So what's your goal?
Terrific meeting, you guys. Thank you for having me as your Toastmaster. Let's bring Nicholas, our club president, back up to close out our meeting.
I hereby bring the bright and early Toastmasters meeting to a close. I'll see you all next week. Thank you.
To learn more about how you can become the speaker or leader you want to be, visit the Member Experience section of the website. Or to find a Toastmasters Club meeting near you, click on the Find button at www.toastmasters.org. Thanks for joining me today.
All right, hopefully that video was helpful in giving you a feel for what a Toastmaster meeting looks like. The next step for you is to make time in your schedule and join us the first or third Wednesday of each month at noon at the Nashua Public Library. You'll get a chance to meet actual members, and just remember, it's free to attend. You don't have to join. You can just come check us out and see what we're all about. In addition, we're showing our website information for you, as well as our Facebook page, and those are both great ways to see what we're about and to also contact us directly. So thank you again for making time to watch our show. Please come back for our next episodes, and thank you again for watching. I'm Kyle Keldsen, and this is Toastmasters.
This is Toastmasters.